Jamunatirambanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jati Hari Kannavara Bhagiri Hare Hari Yashodananda Rajajana Ranjana Yashodananda Rajajana Ranjana Jamunatirambanachari Jamunatirambanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jati Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Hare Hari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Together please. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Paresh Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. We're reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8. Starting a new chapter, questions by King Parikshit. And let's read around together, please. Take turns for these first 6 translations.
King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, how did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak?
So in the previous chapter, Lord Brahma was instructing Narada Muni. So now King Parikshit is asking, how did Narada Muni pass on that knowledge?
The king said, I wish to know. Narrations concerning the Lord who possesses wonderful potencies are certainly auspicious for living beings in all things. O greatly fortunate Sukadeva Goswami, please continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam so that I can place my mind upon the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, and being completely free from material qualities, so as to relinquish his body.
Anthony, would you?
Persons who hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifested in their hearts within a short time.
Haribo!
The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus, it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water.
Your devotee.
We're going to do this one in full, so let's do the Sanskrit. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Oh, six. Sorry. There you go. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Adamulam Namunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Panta Swasharanam Yata. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Padamulam Namunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Pantak Swasharanam Yata. Please, Jim. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Adamulam Chamunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Panta Swasharanam Yata. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Padamulam Chamunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Panta Swasharanam Yata. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Padamulam Tamunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Panta Swasharanam Yata. Okay, Anthony. Great. Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Adamulam Namunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Panta Swasharanam Yata. Anyone else? Dautatma Purusham Krishna. Padamulam Namunchati. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Panta Swasharanam Yata. Synonyms together, please. Doubt Atma, whose heart has been cleansed. Purusha, the living being. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adamulam, the shelter of the lotus feet. Na, never. Munchati, gives up. Mukta, liberated. Sarva, all. Pariklesha, of all miseries of life. Pantaha, the traveler. Swa, Sharanam, in his own abode. Yata, as it were. Translation together, please. A pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as the traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. Okay, we'd like to read the purport. Brandon, would you? Oh, go ahead. Rajput.
One who is not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna is not completely cleansed in the heart, but a perfectly cleansed person never quits the devotional service. He is discharging such devotional service as ordered by Brahmaji to Narada in the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes a representative of the Lord engaged in preaching work meets various so-called difficulties. This was exhibited by Lord Nityananda when he delivered the two fallen souls, Jagai and Madhai. And similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified by the non-believers. But such difficulties are very gladly suffered by the devotees in preaching, because in such activities, although apparently very severe, The devotees of the Lord feel transcendental pleasure because the Lord is satisfied. Prahlad Maharaj suffered greatly, but still he never forgot the lotus feet of the Lord. This is because a pure devotee of the Lord is so purified in his heart. There is no self-interest in such service.
Let's switch mics, shall we? Yeah. For a vast audience at home.
There is no self-interest in such service. Progress of culturing knowledge by the jnanis or the bodily gymnastics of the yogis are ultimately given up by the respective performers, but a devotee of the Lord cannot give up the service of the Lord, for he is ordered by his spiritual master. Pure devotees like Narada and Nityananda Prabhu take up the order of the spiritual master as the sustenance of life. They do not mind what becomes of the future of their lives. They take the matter very seriously, as the order comes from the higher authority, from the representative of the Lord, or from the Lord.
Brandon, would you like to finish? Oh, we lost your mic.
The example set herein is very appropriate. A traveler leaves home to search for wealth in far distant places, sometimes in the forest and sometimes on the ocean and sometimes on hilltops. Certainly there are many troubles for the traveler when he is in such unknown places, but all such troubles are at once mitigated as soon as the sense of his family affection is remembered, and as soon as he returns home, he forgets all such troubles on the way. A pure devotee of the Lord is exactly in a family tie with the Lord, and therefore he is undeterred, and discarding his duty in a full affectionate tie with the Lord.
Okay. A pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. How many here are familiar with Shakespeare? Okay, so in one of his plays, King Lear, one character insults another one with this insult. Thou whoresome son, thou whoreson Zed, thou unnecessary letter. Thou whoreson Zed, thou unnecessary letter. You have any idea? Thank you. Anyone have any idea what that means? That's part of it, yes. Whore son of a whore, bastard. Yeah. Zed, what is Zed? It's a letter Z, right? Thou unnecessary letter. So he's saying to this person, you're like the letter Z, completely useless. So language changes. What we could not understand was not only understandable, but amusing to people at that time. Immediately understood, and they were immediately, oh, that's funny. So in the same way, we are learning about or we are undertaking a process that is subjected to criticism by people who don't understand it. And one of the words they use is cult. Anyone encountered this in your family or friends? Oh, you're in a cult? Right, okay, so this word cult, like 50 years ago, was just a sociological term. The sociological meaning is that a group of people who are centered around a particular idea or personality. So any organization starts off as a cult. Okay? For example, Christianity was a cult. It was the cult of Jesus of Nazareth. And now, but now it's not a cult, it is a worldwide religion. So that's on a different level. But you see, this word cult has become what the word is pejorative or demeaning. in our present context. So language shifts like this. Okay. So some years ago, there was a gathering of religious leaders around campus here at UF called the Campus Ministry Cooperative. And so it's kind of dismantled now in Kali Yuga, but it was going strong for many, many years. You know, the Catholics were there, and the Jews were there, and the Protestants were there, and the Mormons were there, and the Hare Krishnas were there. And we would have a nice gathering and talk about various religious issues facing campus. So one day at one of the meetings, one of the representatives came in and said, there is a cult coming to campus, and we should really do something about it. And so, you know, I raised my hand and said, I have 25 years experience as a cult leader, maybe I could help. So it turns out this was a very fanatic Christian group, like, centered around this one person who had this approach on campus that they'd been here before, and it caused a lot of damage to several students. The approach was they would target freshmen, and they'd go to these new freshmen and say, oh, welcome to campus. Hey, we're having a study group tonight. Would you like to come? And so the freshmen would think, oh, good, we're going to study the biology or whatever. This would be very helpful. But when they go there, it would be a Bible study. And the other participants were like already into it. And so the newcomers would be kind of like blindsided by this and targeted and pressured. And so, but because they were lonely and vulnerable, okay, well, at least I have some friends here. But then they get more and more into it. And then as they got into it, they were obliged to do two things. First, they had to give $1,000 a year. That was like a tithe, and which for some students was a huge challenge. But they basically said, yeah, if you want to be saved, you have to give us $1,000 a year. And the other requirement is that you have to bring in one person to our organization. If you don't bring in one person, then you also can't go to heaven. You can't be saved. So this psychological pressure would be put on the students to get more followers and more money. And so this is a cult. So we had a symposium over on campus about cults as a response to this. And the conclusion of the deliberation and the presentation was this, that a dangerous cult, there's a dangerous cult, and then there's a cult in a neutral sociological term. So the dangerous cult, this distinction was made, puts these pressures on people. First, deceptive recruitment. Second, financial obligation. And third, requirement to bring someone else in for your own salvation. Okay. So this is destructive cult. We made this differentiation. Any group of people, the fans of the Florida Gators could be called a cult, right? The followers of MAGA are often called a cult. Right? So the point is that this term has taken on a very, very negative term, a negative meaning. And yet what we're reading here is that the whole process of receiving knowledge comes from what? From a spiritual master, from a person. People who gather around that person for spiritual knowledge can be labeled by others as cultists. So what we're reading and we're learning about here is this wonderful tradition of hearing from self-realized personalities. So is there financial requirement to hear? No. Is there pressure? You have to bring someone in or you're going to hell? No. In fact, Srila Prabhupada explained that to be an acharya or guru in Krishna consciousness, there's three things required. What are those three? First, you have to know the philosophy. Second, you have to live the philosophy. And third, you have to teach. Yes, share, teach the philosophy. So the third one is not required. Perfectly fine if someone, or the second one for that matter, at least learn it. That was Prabhupada's appeal. Just try to understand. How many times would he say that? Just try to understand. And if people would understand, he'd be happy. If we just understood, then he would be happy. And then how much we want to adopt it, how much we want to live it, that's up to us. And then if we want to teach it, that's also up to us. There's never any pressure, never any force. Just try to learn. Just try out the chanting. Just try it. That was Prabhupada's appeal. So those of us who have tried it and appreciate it, we appreciate Srila Prabhupada. He did not coerce us. He was just giving and sharing out of his own joy and his own realization. And we see that, we recognize that. So we're naturally attracted. And yet to the outsider, it looks like you're gathering around this one, you even have a statue of him in your church. So, you know, idolatry. Yeah, this is the very unfortunate situation that we face. We're reading about persecution of people who live a spiritual life in the purport. And our persecution is not, not getting nailed to the cross because of our religious beliefs, although some people put themselves in that position. But over endeavoring. Or we're not, at this point at least, disallowed, as has happened in different countries, such as Argentina or Venezuela or Russia, at various times. We're allowed to practice. In fact, Hare Krishna was the first religion legalized in the former Soviet Union after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So we are not subject to that. We are subject, though, to social, a little bit of social ostracization. We're a little bit marginalized because of our religious beliefs. We're considered eccentric. We're considered offbeat. Whatever. Okay, that's our cross to bear. It's not prestigious to walk in to your sociology class. So yes, I am a Hare Krishna person. Or into your new place of business. Yes, I'm a Hare Krishna person. We play it low key. It's because we don't want people to judge us based on our religion, and people may do that, and we have experienced that. So it's okay. But my point is that our taking some criticism for our allegiance to Srila Prabhupada does not make us foolish or incapable of independent thought, as the anti-cult people would have us believe, right? It's important for our own well-being to understand this in a very deep way. Srila Prabhupada tells a story about there was a man who had some enemies, and the enemies wanted to make this man crazy, and they wanted to hurt him. So they conspired. One day when the man went into the village, this other man walked up, looked at him and said, a ghost, and he ran away. And then the next man saw a ghost, and he ran away. And then another one. And then the man started thinking, oh my God, what has happened to me? Everyone thinks I'm a ghost. So if everybody is telling you like that you're brainwashed or that you're a occultist, it can affect you. It's important for us to understand this is just our little bit of burden to bear. In fact, we are not coerced. We're here out of our own volition, and we're motivated by love, by the love that we experience in Krishna consciousness, the joy, the realization, the awakening. That's what we wanted, that's what we're getting, and so naturally we're hanging around. This is nothing new. There was one of the Catholic saints, Thomas Aquinas. Have you ever heard of Thomas Aquinas? He lived about 800 years ago. He's a very formidable philosophical figure in Christianity. He gave 5 powerful arguments about the existence of God that are kind of foundational for Christianity today. But when he decided to become a priest, his family did not like it. They thought that he was being brainwashed. And so they went to the monastery, his brothers went to the monastery, They took him away forcibly. They ripped off his robes, put him in ordinary dress, and locked him in a room with a prostitute. So, so Thomas Aquinas was tempted, but he was thinking, no, this is my faith, this is my belief. I don't want to. So he took an ember from the fire and kept the prostitute away. So, what is it that threatens people when we say we have a spiritual master? What is it that threatens them? Well, or that we're worshiping Krishna, or that we're chanting Hare Krishna. What is it that makes people uncomfortable? Any ideas? Go ahead and say, I'll repeat it. Oh, there you go.
I was just going to say people are afraid that would be.
If they're afraid, our loved ones think we're being controlled. Okay?
There's nothing deeper than that. It just kind of stops like that. Like you said, like we don't have any idea.
Said that people are worried that we don't have any independent thought, we're unable to think for ourselves, but also my best challenge with that is that at the end of every lecture, every class, you can feel free to challenge and ask questions and debate as much as you want to, and you cannot do that at the regular community church. As a matter of fact, it's extremely hard, in my experience, to find time with the minister, the preacher, after even to have a sit down. And yeah, they don't really want a lot of like debating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Hey. Gopal, yes.
A lot of Christians, if Jesus isn't God and he's not the only way, the belief system is completely shot.
That exclusivity, that's the cornerstone of their faith.
Yeah, the belief system is completely shot.
It saves you the trouble of understanding any other faiths. Okay. My way is the only way. So whatever you believe is wrong. I don't even have to find out what it is. I already know it's wrong. Go ahead, please.
Our religions may be concerned we might be missing out on some enjoyment.
They're concerned that we might be missing out on enjoyment in material life. Oh, yeah. No compassionate. Okay. What else?
It calls into question their own moral turpitude.
It calls into question their own moral turpitude.
Yeah, so if you're
Go ahead, please.
if you're showing up, practicing love and kindness, they think you're in la la land, and then they're forced with their own right. Is he right? And they don't even want to acknowledge that, like within themselves. So they just like completely shut it down.
Yes, that it's a threat. Prabhupada said, this is a great quote. He said, when people see a devotee, they see death personified. Why? Because what if they're right? This was Pascal's wager. He was a theologian, and he said to his atheistic friend, hey, if you're right and there's no God, you're happy, I'm happy, we're equal. But if I'm right and you're wrong, when we die, I'm in good shape and you're in bad shape. So what have you got to lose in being a theist? That was his argument.
Just wanted to add that people don't like us to change. When we change, it's like we don't know what to expect. And that's what my experience is that they don't like us.
They don't like you to change. Yes, yes. When I was 18, I left home looking for God. And the first thing I did is go to San Francisco and see my friend there, my old high school friend who had moved there. And he was a hippie, motorcycle, girlfriend, and drugs. I was looking for spirituality. And I thought, okay, this is not here. I'm not finding it here. Later, I met devotees. I came back and saw him a few years later. We met. He said, you stand for everything I hate. So yeah, people do not like us to change. And we don't reject people, but they will reject us. Yeah, so this is the burden that we bear, to be devotees. And it's a very mild burden. It's going to annoy some people. In fact, Prabhupada said that if you are not annoying people, then you're not trying. I didn't quite say it in those words, but he said if you preach, you will polarize people. You polarize people will either love you or hate you if you're sharing Krishna consciousness. Some people are going to be really excited, and some people are going to be very upset for one reason or another. So our tradition is taking shelter of the spiritual master, and that is immediately confrontational to people who don't want to do that, who don't want to take any authority, or whose authority is taken just fanatically, without thought. But taking shelter of a spiritual master is not done blindly. It's done because we have knowledge, because we have a desire for realization. We want to improve ourselves. We want to understand life. And then when we meet somebody who understands life, who's willing to teach us, why would we not take shelter? So in the Aristotelian culture, ever since the time of Aristotle, knowledge has been measured on what you can perceive with your senses. That was his great contribution to modern knowledge, modern epistemology. What you can verify with your senses is the gold standard for what is real, for what is true. And so, when we're talking about spiritual things, spiritual subjects, these are things we cannot see with our material senses. We cannot see God. This is the atheist's favorite argument. His name, Carl Sagan, great atheist scientist. No, it was another one. Anyway, one of these big atheists, Richard Dawkins. He said, if God doesn't exist, if God exists, then why doesn't he just show himself and put the debate to rest? The fact that he's not showing himself proves that there's no God. If he was there, he'd just say, why deal with it? Why this atheism? Here I am, believe in me, see you later. And the fact that he doesn't do that is proof there's no God. So what is the counter to that argument? Okay, he does show himself. Okay, that's one. Good. What else?
Come many times throughout history, and even when he has come, people still didn't even recognize
Okay, so
him when he was here.
he has come many times, but still people didn't take it seriously. Okay, there's another argument from another point of view. Can we get a mic? Here we go. So, I'm looking for another argument as to why this is such a crazy approach.
You don't have the eyes to see God. You're held down by the four defects. The tendency to cheat, to be illusion, to be
Have imperfect senses. Yes. And to make mistakes. Before we get off that, I just want to, this is a really good answer. I just want to mention these are sequential. Did you know that? They start with imperfect senses. Our senses are imperfect. And again, the Aristotelian approach is that, well, the senses, perfection can be found through the senses. But we start off with the reality, which is our senses are imperfect. We have very limited sensual perception. Like dogs can hear sounds that we can't hear. You know, or cows and cats can see at night. You know, they see perfectly well in the dark, which we can't do. So first thing is imperfect senses, and as a result of imperfect senses, we make mistakes. And we assume the first mistake, I am this body. And then because we make mistakes, we act in illusion. We act upon those mistakes, and therefore we're illusion. We're disconnected from reality. And then, despite the fact that we have imperfect senses, we're mistaken prone, and we are illusion, I can teach you. So they come and, so yeah, so this is one reason why Dawkins' argument is so bogus. Okay, what's another one? There you go. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Well, it sounds more like an emotional argument because it's just like saying if you're an orphan, you can't see your parents. You don't know who they are, and you say so they don't exist.
It's
It
more of
doesn't
an
make any
emotional argument.
sense.
I can't
Yeah.
see them, therefore they don't exist.
Yeah,
When obviously they do exist, you wouldn't be
Yeah.
there.
exactly.
Good. Okay. Like that. Presence.
I was thinking is that God doesn't show himself because we don't want to see him, right? So the material world is a place where we actually decided we don't want to have a relationship. We would like to turn away. We would like to be the experiencer and the enjoyer and controller. And so he doesn't show himself because that's our deepest desire.
Excellent. That's our desire, not to see him. But then the atheist says, okay, well, I want to see him. So what's the problem with that logic, Anthony? Oh, okay.
If he showed himself, then the choice of free will would be taken away and faith wouldn't exist. There would be no grace. Like, oh, clearly he's here. Now I have no choice but to submit to him because he's manifest in front of me. And some people probably still wouldn't, like if he did a cartwheel through the temple room, be like, well, here it is. The adventure's over.
Yes, what they call scissors people. You know that story? Scissors man. So these two gentlemen were having an argument on the bank of the Ganga. One says, you know, this knife is much sharper than scissors. And the other says, oh no, these scissors are much sharper than that knife. Knife, scissors, knife, scissors. And then the knife guy takes the scissors guy and throws him into the Ganga. He can't swim, he's going to drown. But as he's being washed away to his death, he sticks up his hand. That's what Prabhupada called a scissors man.
I have a few points. First one, when Krishna does come, like the Ajahn Singh mentioned, some people not just don't recognize him, some people want to kill him. The second thing is argument. There's so many things we can't see. One can say, well, I can't see your mind, so maybe you don't have a mind. This is a very bad argument, just because I can't see. And Devamita Maharaj brings one more argument. He says, if you want to see an important person, like you want to see a president, you can't just say, you know, she should be right here in front of you right now. No, you have to go through the process. You have to go to the English embassy or the White House. You have to try to submit. It's a very important person. So you have to make an effort. If she's all qualified to see. So what does become God?
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, that was my last point I wanted to make. Yes. We never ask, what is my qualification to see God? Just God show up and I may do you the big favor of believing in you. Or maybe not, I'll decide, but you show up and then how arrogant, right? And so these are all reasons why people find it distasteful for us to say, yes, God exists, and you can approach God through a spiritual master. They find it frightening, they find it distasteful, they find it uncomfortable, and they cannot understand. Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra, the things that motivate us as Vaishnavas are incomprehensible to the non-devotees. They may even appreciate that we're steady, we're clean, we're moral, okay, but what actually motivates us is something beyond their capacity to understand. And what is that? It is that it is very joyful to serve Krishna. Plain and simple. In the Gita, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitramidam Utman Pratyak Sarvagamam Dharnyam Shushukam Kartum Avyayam. This beautiful verse, chapter 9, verse 2 from the Gita. He said this knowledge of Krishna consciousness is the king of education. It is the purest knowledge. It is the most confidential knowledge, most secret of all secrets. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. Pratyaksha means direct perception of the self, the very subtle, invisible thing, our self, by realization. It is the perfection of spirituality. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. The word sukha means happiness. And shushukam means happiness on steroids. Shushukam kartum avyayam, this eternally, everlastingly joyful. So it's a wonderful thing. You know, I often, in my counseling, I meet with you bewildered and confused young people. But often, I remember this distinctly from my younger years. Who am I? What am I going to do with my life? What is my identity? And that's a big challenge to understand. And there's something driving us to find out what it is, which sometimes causes us to glom on to this identity or that identity prematurely before we really find out what we love to do. So this is a similar thing in self-realization. We have some identity in Krishna service that takes some time to manifest. And we can't force it. You know, we can't force it. We just have to be willing to stay in the mode of goodness. The mode of passion wants security right now. The mode of goodness says, let me deal with what's in front of me today. There was a 104-year-old priest who is still teaching Mass, and he, in addition to drinking milk, he said one of the secrets to his longevity is every day he wakes up and first thing he says, all right, Lord, what surprises do you have for me today? This is the mode of goodness. Not that I have to do, things have to be this way and this way. And then, okay, whatever you're going to send is a surprise. And I'm ready for anything. So my point is our identity in Krishna service becomes manifest over time. And that's the process of self-realization. So the fact that we're pursuing that will be misunderstood. It will be disrespected. One last thing, this beautiful verse. You've heard me mention this many times, I'm sure, but I love this verse from Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was Lord Chaitanya's spiritual predecessor. It was he who introduced Radha and Krishna worship, the conjugal ras, Madhurya ras, in Vaishnavism. And so he said, since I've taken up Krishna consciousness, my friends think I'm crazy. My teachers think that I am misled. The wise philosophers think I'm puffed up and know everything. The followers of the Vedic rituals think that I am completely off. And my family just thinks I'm frustrated. Everybody's down on me. And still, my determination to serve Govinda does not budge an inch, even though I'm unable to do it. Isn't that beautiful? So to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, chant Hare Krishna, practice Krishna consciousness, people will not understand it. That's all right. We're doing it because of the joy that we experience. All right, no comments. There are no questions to what I have just said.
Oh, one thing back on the point about cults and if all of us, we can't really explain it as like perfectly as you did to those who are challenging whether or not, you know, we're in one, how do we present it as something positive? That's my question. And one comment on that is interesting in context currently, where cult is seen as a positive is in music. They call a cult following. And it's been like that since the Grateful Dead, but even like new generational groups who have like a theme to it, you know, and it catches on and it has a cult following. Nobody devalues that. I just think that's so interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, how do we present it as something, you know, that's positive in our lives without having to elaborate it the way you did? Or should we just send them the link to this class?
Oh, no. I don't know why I'm doing this, but here's the cult leader. That's an interesting point. Your last point first about there are cults around music groups or entertainers or whatever. The difference is, of course, the degree of commitment. To be a cult follower of the Grateful Dead, you just have to spend a few $100 for some tickets, maybe drive around a little bit, but it doesn't really change. It doesn't change you. You just happen to like that. But Krishna consciousness changes us. So therein lies the answer to your first question. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said that the principles of religion are established not by logic and debate, but by no, thinking of something else. By the behavior of the devotees. So the way that we behave towards people is what really answers that question. Treat people nicely, respectfully. We don't condemn them for their beliefs. We don't say, "Oh, you filthy karmi." You know, there's boys used to joke, "How do you shake hands with a karmi?" No, don't touch. We've made some progress. In fact, that very phrase, karmi, it is a Vedically accurate phrase, meaning somebody who works for fruitive results. But it's a little bit become pejorative amongst devotees, karmis, filthy karmis. So devotees have used another phrase, normies. Well, the normies do this, okay. So the qualities of devotees are described in many places, like in the Gita, a couple of places, in the Bhagavatam places. What is it? Ajata Shatrava. What is the verse? Titikshava Karunika. Titikshava, tolerant, Karunika, merciful. Surita Sarvadehinam, friendly to everybody. Ajata Shatrava. One does not consider anyone one's enemies. Shanto and peaceful. Sadhubhushanam. Sadhunam sadhubhushanam. These are the qualities of the sadhu. So the best way we can exhibit, we can convince people, is just to treat them respectfully, even if people are treating us disrespectfully. That's very challenging. People are disrespectful to us. The natural instinct is to get them right back. So like Nanda, Mother Nanda gives class here every other week. He was saying how once on the Harinam at a football game on campus, the devotees were doing Harinam, and some drunken Gator fan came by and said, "You're getting older." So, and she said, "So are you." That's clever, but in general, if somebody's saying, "Oh, you're a cultist," we don't want to say, "Oh, well, you're just in Maya," Just, yeah, exactly. Which we could easily do, but much better to say, "I'm having a lot of fun with this. Please excuse me if this is making you uncomfortable. Please bear with me. Let me explore this a little bit more." Just showing respect like that. What happens over time? Families are often the ones who say this. What happens is devotees tend to become the pillars in the family. At first, everyone's down on, but because of the steadiness, the humility, the good qualities that begin to manifest, then families begin to appreciate Krishna consciousness. And here's the man of the hour. Look at that. They're going through rain. Shyama going through torrential rain to bring us prasadam. Is that devotion or what? Very well. Thank you. Okay, so any other impertinent or inappropriate comments? Okay, two, yes. I'll try to Brandon and then Sundari, and then we'll call it a class.
I just want to say a statement that for me, for the longest time, I always only seen cults as a negative thing. Like, because growing up, cults were always perceived as the KKK, or the Illuminati, or these things that are dark, like satanic cults. So that was the only way I knew of the word cult. until actually I came into Christian consciousness, and my family were like, "You're in a cult." And I'm like, "But there's nothing negative about it." So I was like, that's when I started to like look into like they explained, well, it means that you guys are around Prabhupada. And so then I started looking into what the actual word cult means. And I never knew that you could be in a positive cult and a negative cult.
Yes, that was the conclusion of the religious leaders also. Thank you. Okay, and Sundari, last point.
Well, it's more of a question that I've struggled with actually since the beginning of Krishna consciousness. To some degree, I've come to terms with it, but I want to hear what you say about it. For example, this is more like how linguistically or logically Srila Prabhupada often makes statements in his reports. Like, for example, in the first sentence, he turns the verse around. The actual Sanskrit does not make this connotation, but Srila Prabhupada adds onto it, and he says that one who is not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna is not completely cleansed in heart. Okay, we know this from Shastra in different proofs, but we don't know that. We have not seen how he came to this conclusion, and he makes this statement. And to an uneducated mind, or to a mind who is logical, obviously you're going to question. So how did you arrive at that conclusion? Because that's not what is said in the verse. And I don't think that is an unbona fide question.
No, it's a very good question.
I just wonder why, from which standpoint does Srila Prabhupada makes such statement? Because he does it quite logically, and from what I understand.
There are scriptural. One of my godbrothers, Hari Vilas Prabhu, likes to go through every purport, Prabhupada, and with every sentence, he'll find a scriptural reference. It's a great exercise. Every sentence. So there is a scriptural reference for this sentence. And that's what's so amazing about Prabhupada. Everything he's saying, it has a basis in Shastra. What is that verse? Yes, Yasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Kinchana. That if a person is not a devotee of Krishna, where are the good qualities? This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. The good qualities may come and go, but they're not steady. So this is why it's very important to understand Prabhupada's books as a pharmacy. Okay, you go into the pharmacy, you don't just say, "Oh, I think I'll try this and this." You need a prescription. In fact, the heavy drugs you can't get without a prescription. So if one is being one's own doctor and goes in, "I think I'll try this and that. The blue ones look good, the red ones look good. Then there's very little chance they're going to get the right medicine." So in the same way, Prabhupada's books address a vast variety of spiritual questions. What an individual needs requires a physician to direct them to the right reference. So people will sometimes read Prabhupada's books, take one sentence out of context. "Oh, I don't believe that, therefore I can reject the whole thing." This is just an excuse to, avoid surrendering. So we need to be able to guide people. Prabhupada had two disciples. Forgive me if how much over time are we? Okay. One more story. It's a very instructive story. So there were two devotees in 1974, thereabouts, who were going to campuses and talking to professors about Krishna consciousness. And so they came to see Srila Prabhupada and said, "Prabhupada, when we tell the professors from the last chapter of the Krishna book, talking about Krishna's family, the numbers of people based on this numbers presented there would be in the billions or even trillions. And they laugh and they say, 'Where do they put all the bathrooms?'" So Prabhupada said, show them a section of Srimad Bhagavatam that they can understand. But then these two devotees were really persistent. And they said, "But Prabhupada, how can we explain this? How can we understand this?" And Prabhupada again patiently said, "Just show them a section of Bhagavatam that they can relate to." But again, these devotees were pushing and pushing. And Prabhupada said to them, the only time he ever said this, "You do not require spiritual mastery." So, if we can't, in other words, if we can't hear, if we cannot actually follow this process, to take instructions from somebody who is our superior in realization or knowledge, then why should we bother claiming to have one? You see? So Prabhupada was saying, if somebody cannot take one section of the Bhagavatam, that's all right. Take them to another section. That requires an expert physician. That requires somebody who knows the books. That requires somebody who is compassionate enough to want to help this person tap into Krishna consciousness how and where they can. Does that make sense? Okay, well, I thought you were taking exception. You're taking exception with this first sentence. One who is not cleansed, a pure devotee, is not completely cleansed in heart.
The foundation of my argument is not on the rejection of the validity of the statement itself, but rather the way it is presented linguistically, and logically.
Yeah. Again, I'm trying to address the question because Prabhupada in his purports speaks in very strong ways in certain ways.
Because he's debating he debates the impersonalists or Mayavadis because his stance is often actually in direct debate with their philosophy, right?
Excuse me, Nishna? Nartana, do you want to start serving out this on?
I'm gonna get
Okay, good. Okay. So, right, I hear what you're saying, Sundari Leela. What I'm trying to express is there are places in the Bhagavatam or in the Gita or in any of Prabhupada's books where he attacks, but there's a scriptural basis for his attack. But there's other places where he might be presenting things in a way that could be more relatable to the person who's reading them. So it is our duty to know well enough where to present Prabhupada to a newcomer so that they could avoid this sense that you're talking about. He's just making these dogmatic statements. See? And if I'm understanding you correctly. Okay. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There you go. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.